Hey everybody. Today we're solving equations involving absolute values. The absolute value function just makes the inside positive. So if you plug in something negative, it's going to kill the negative sign. For example, the absolute value of -3 is +3. On the other hand, if you plug in something positive, the absolute value function won't do anything at all. For example, the absolute value of 3 is 3. Solving equations involving absolute values always relies on this fact. If you have the equation absolute value of x equals c, you can break it up into two separate equations. You know that x equals c or x equals -c. One thing to notice here, the constant c has to be greater than or equal to 0 because the absolute value function will never be negative. For example, the absolute value of x equals 4 has two solutions, x equals -4 and x equals +4. But on the other hand, the absolute value of x equals -4 has no solutions. You have to be careful here. If the right-hand side is negative, but you still apply this rule, you will get answers and they will be wrong. Let's do a couple of problems. First of all, let's solve the absolute value of the absolute value of 2x minus 1 equals 5. The right-hand side is positive here, so we can break this up into two equations. 2x minus 1 equals 5, and 2x minus 1 equals -5. Let's tackle these one at a time. 2x minus 1 equals 5. We're going to solve by adding 1 to both sides, and then dividing by 2 to get x equals 3. The second equation, 2x minus 1 equals -5, is solved the same way. Add 1 to both sides, and divide by 2 to get x equals -2. Overall, we get the solution to this absolute value equation. X can be -2 or 3. Notice, by the way, that we can plug either one of those numbers into our original equation and get a true statement. That's a quick way to check your work. Let's do a harder one. Absolute value of x squared minus 3x equals 4x minus 6. We're going to use the same principle. We're going to break this up into two separate equations that do not have absolute values. X squared minus 3x equals 4x minus 6, and x squared minus 3x equals negative quantity 4x minus 6. Okay, so let's do the first one. It's a polynomial equation, so we're going to solve it by moving everything to one side and then factoring. When we move everything to one side, we get x squared minus 7x plus 6 equals 0. And that factors as x minus 6 times x minus 1 equals 0, which gives us solutions x equals 1 and x equals 6. Now, it looks here like we have two solutions, but really only one of them makes sense. When x is 1, the right-hand side of our original equation is going to be negative. It'll be -2. And we know we can't apply this rule about breaking up absolute values when the right-hand side is negative. The moral of the story here is that you should always check your answers on absolute value equations by plugging them back in at the end and making sure you get things that make sense. For this exact reason, one of your solutions or more could make the right-hand side negative. The second equation that we get from this absolute value problem is x squared minus 3x equals negative the quantity 4x minus 6. We'll solve this the same way. Move everything to the left and combine like terms. Factor. And observe that the solutions have to be x equals -3 and x equals 2. Once again, we have to check that each one of these makes sense. And again, in this case, one of them does not. When x is -3, the right-hand side of our original equation is negative. So only x equals 2 is a legitimate solution here. Okay, so each one of our two equations gave us an answer. Overall, to our original problem, we have the solution x can be either 2 or 6.